Getting some sound. We're getting started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for September 2nd, 2017. We're in episode 44, folks. Hey, look at that. We're chugging along to our 50th episode, which I'm going to consider a year because we took 1 week off, and we're more than likely going to take an actual week off for PAX Unplugged and maybe just do something special for it after everything is said and done. But, so we'll probably have 2 weeks off. But anyway, welcome to the show for today. We have an interesting docket to share with you. We will be talking a little bit about the new Magic the Gathering set. I want to talk with Joe just a little bit about the new abilities that have been spoiled in that. Just because, I do enjoy that kind of thing. Anyway, give me a second here. What? I'm on show. What are you doing? What do you
My show done.
Your show is done. Give me a minute and I'll go over there to help you. Sorry.
Stream niece!
The stream niece. Apologize to anybody watching. I am indeed watching my niece right now. No one else is in the household, so if I need to interrupt myself, I'll let Joe take over briefly.
And I'll sing to everyone.
Probably. Then I want to talk a little bit about the Pathfinder Society and the Starfinder Society. Pathfinder Society is on their 9th season. And the Starfinder Society has the Commencement, which I want to talk about, which is their one. And I'll get a new episode on, okay? Yes, which it's apparently supposed to be a replayable scenario that's supposed to introduce your players, it's supposed to introduce characters into the society. It's supposed to be a good excuse for it. So that's why I find it interesting. Then I want to talk about Conan the RPG has put out the Book of Skelos, which is all about magic use in the Conan world, like being an actual character. So it handles both player character and non-player character spellcasters, which, I mean, it's not a major thing in Conan, but you always know there's some kind of evil/good sorcerer out there, so now you can play one. And I want to end up with the major topics for today with Space 1889 Venus Sourcebook, because apparently Venus has dinosaurs, swamps, I don't know, steamy jungles, alien lizard men.
Ooh, steamy jungles with alien lizard men.
Venus is interesting in this book.
I thought women were from Venus.
No, apparently alien lizard men are. And
that's no fun. Why do I want to go to Venus then?
Because adventure? I mean, you're a steampunk Victorian, so adventure. And then we'll finish up with stories from the table, of course, and we'll end up with Gaming Sage Advice. This week, of course, we have our special guest, Wyrm, with us today to help us lead in the topics. So, I do want to dive right into the magic. Can you introduce it a little bit? Maybe talk about Enrage and dinosaurs for a hot minute while I go help my niece?
I will do my best.
When I come back, just let me know where you're at so we can figure it out.
So with Magic, with the new set that's coming out, Ixalan, sorry, they've added a few new keywords. One of them is going to be enraged. Dinosaurs are going to have this power. One of the examples is with this. There's a card called Sun Crowned Hunters. Their enraged power is whenever Sun Crowned Hunters is dealt damage, deals 3 damage to target opponent. Now, one of the interesting parts with Rage is the fact that even if the dinosaur dies, Rage still activates.
Well, that's cool, yeah.
You can kill off the creature and it's still one final snap at you.
And it's just damage. It doesn't say combat damage. Yeah. And the fact is, you can target your own creature too.
Yes, you could technically have a Timmy or something and just point it every round.
Yes, you can hurt your own creature to hurt your enemies. That's actually a really mean ability to have that. So I do I like the enrage ability. It's something that sounds like it's existed, but not had a keyword to it. Now, I do find the next one is for pirates, which is raid, which if you put something into play and you had already attacked this turn, it activates an effect. You get rewarded for attacking and then playing a creature. It's fairly simple. It's another mechanic that sounds like it's existed, but they're giving it a keyword.
But you can get treasure from it.
Yes.
And treasure is colorless artifacts.
That you can sacrifice for mana. That's really weird.
Yes.
Yes.
I got this doubloon. I buy this.
Yeah. There's a merfolk, which apparently have to do with +1/+1 counters, no specific keyword, but there's going to be a lot of things to do with it. There's apparently white vampires now. You know?
Yes, and they're bringing in vehicles in this one again.
Yes,
How does that work?
Well, apparently you can use creatures to power vehicles, and they did it in like a more like a steampunky area. Now they're doing it for ships. So your
it'll tell you how many creatures you have to use to power the ship. Like the one they give is sleek schooner, a crew 1, so you need to use 1 creature, and it powers a 4/3 artifact. So you put a 1/1 on a 4/3, and it's like, haha, I'm more dangerous.
That makes sense.
And the last one that it seems to have a keyword is Explorer, where you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, it goes into your hand. Anything else, you put it into the back on the top or into your graveyard, and you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature that activated the Explorer.
I like the artwork on Treasure Cove, the land.
Oh, the flip card. The flip card.
Oh, yeah, treasure map goes into Treasure Cove.
Yes.
Which I like that.
That's the thing is, like, if it has weird alternate art like that, I don't mind because it's a flip card. You know, it's like it goes from like a normal looking card, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, look, it's all like stylized and special.
And it's an artifact that turns into a land.
Yes. Well, it tells a story. You you like explore for a treasure, and then you discover it.
Well, right. You have the treasure map, which is the artifact. You use it to find Treasure Cove.
Yes. And they did reveal, just mentioning it, Jace is the planeswalker that they're showing off, and he's got apparently pecs now.
He's also has only like one sleeve weird tunic thing going on.
After he got beat up by the giant dragon monster that was a planeswalker, he went and became a pirate. Because when you get defeated by a giant monster's dragon god, you know, you feel like you become a pirate.
Here's the picture of Jace.
He's a pirate. It's silly.
He has scars on his face too, it looks like.
Yes.
Or no, it's paint. Never mind.
Well, the thing is, he can clone himself too, which is the weird ability. Because apparently they've changed the planeswalker rule that now they're just legendaries.
Yeah, he's a legendary planeswalker.
Yeah, so they changed the rules a little bit about how they work for cards. So, but that's something to discuss another day, because I feel like I want someone that's a much more rules buff than us in the current rules to like discuss the change in that rule set and what that's going to mean for things.
I don't do a lot of Magic.
No, it's fine. That's the thing.
Is, like I haven't been buying much Magic in the last few years, but I may buy a bunch of this set just because of pirates.
Yeah, I'm sorry, pirates and dinosaurs.
Dino pirates. Wait, are they copying Smash Up?
They are capping Smash Up. I think that's what they're doing now in the office. They were playing Smash Up, and they're like, dude, pirate dinosaurs. I got a great idea for that.
Oh no, watch out for T-Rex Hook.
I know. Well, it's like also apparently like a little bit of that Mesoamerican feel to it, you know, with like Incans and Aztecs. So, especially with apparently like the worship of the dinosaurs almost to a degree. So, that's what I've picked up from it. So,
Wait, can they do a little Pirates of the Caribbean? Do you get a cursed treasure that turns all your people into zombies?
Please. That might be the second set. We don't know if it's in this first one.
Come on, that'd be a perfect tie-in.
It would be. They're like, hey, Disney, can we have some money? We're going to advertise for you.
We'll create a legendary planeswalker, Captain Jack.
That'd be terrible. That would never work. But you know, I expect someone to actually create that now, just for a fan-made card.
Please, internet, someone.
They might have already done it.
Still.
Mm-hmm. Might have already done it. All right.
Maybe he could be half dinosaur.
Also, be kind of cool. So I do like these abilities so far that we've seen. I don't feel any like I know there are problems with vehicles in the last set there was, that they could be kind of out of hand. This one doesn't look bad, so we can see how the rest of them evolve.
Well, no, because in the last one they had vehicles, they had cards specifically to play off of the vehicles. Like, oh, here, create a bunch of little tokens that can man your vehicles, basically.
Mm-hmm. Granted, +1/+1 counters on merfolk. You could have a merfolk pirate ship. That'd be kind of interesting.
Wouldn't it have to be a submarine, Ned?
Depends on the type of merfolk you have. I don't know the type of... Are they like fishtail merfolk or like Triton merfolk?
I think they were fishtail merfolk.
Well, we'll find out in the upcoming weeks.
Yes.
We'll discuss it more. I do want to discuss a bunch of the cards, but I do want to wait to discuss a bunch of the cards. So
we have a magic expert, yes.
Well, not an expert, because we're not experts ourselves. No. Confession, me and Joe, we have experience, but we don't... I only dabble into it most of the time, so...
Yeah, we don't do events and stuff like that.
No. And I've been talking to some people that we've had on before that have been to events that can definitely help us out. So,
like the judge.
Oh, the judge was great, But anyway, why don't we move on though? Because I enjoyed discussing that I'm looking forward to this, so far. Yeah. So I'm keeping mine. Let's talk about both the Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society a little bit. So, I think we've talked about these before, but they're effectively groups for bringing people together to roleplay together, especially if you are doing like friends or trying to recruit them yourself. It's an easier way of recruiting a bunch of people. Now, Pathfinder Society is on their 9th season of adventures that they put out. And the thing is, I've only briefly looked through some of these, because I did get a couple of PDFs of them, but I have never used them. But they call them, like, levels 1 to 5 is, like, the one of them, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. And
Wouldn't that be character levels 1 through 5?
I don't know if it means that you actually play through 1 to 5, because they're different kind of adventure.
Or they're designed for level characters who are in those levels.
That's the thing is, are you leveling from 1 to 5, or can you play between those levels at any point in time with the way that it's built? I don't know. I have actually not had a chance to read through any of them.
Gotcha.
I'm bad that way.
Me neither, so...
I have had no excuse not to do it. That's my thing. No real excuse not to. But I mean, they always seem to be interesting. Like ones... The Pathfinder Society ones that came out this week were... a cult, which I guess is like a well-known cult, is acting weird, and you have to find out why. It's sort of like, wait, they're a cult? But I guess they're a cult people know about?
Okay.
And then there's apparently someone that's kidnapped, you're trying to look for them, and then you're trying to mediate a war. Those are cool. The Starfinder Society... Yeah,
Society.
I know. The one that I really liked was Commencement, which is only for levels 1 to 2. It's meant to be a replayable introduction, which is important. It's basically, you introduce players to the factions of Starfinder Society.
Grand Prix.
I actually tried to do that the other day when I was recording something, and I corrected myself, and then I redid it. I was like, God damn it, I still am trying to do that. And Aslam Station, which apparently is like the main... It's like the Rock of Bras in Spelljammer.
Oh.
I think. Important place. What do you... One of you think? Give me a second, I'm going to check up on my niece. Someone of you take over for a second, and I'll pop in again.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested, because when I first heard about the Starfinder, I was like, did Pazio make a Spelljammer, basically? But it's like they actually made it rather different, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's like, to me it's loosely based on the Spelljammer, of course. And
they went a bit more technological ships and stuff than magic, though.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of Pazio people were originally D&D people. So
yeah, of course,
it makes sense that the base comes from that. But yeah, they did do it in a different direction, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Still waiting for 5e Spelljammer though.
Oh my god, 5e Spelljammer. Adapting it
They're
has...
thinking about it.
I've adapted a
thinking
little
about
bit of it, you know, for my own game that I've been running. But again, it's sort of like not
Difficult.
perfect, and I know it's not perfect because there are certain systems in there which I'm just not sure how to easily adapt to 5th edition. Because like the battle system is a hex grid for ships. And I'm like, I could just use a hex grid, but I don't use a lot of hex grids anyway.
Yeah, so I actually ran into some rules on a homebrew site, but the funny thing about it is I think it was actually put up by some people who work at D&D. Like, oh, here's some ideas for what we might do, you know, what Spelljammer and 5e might look like.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I ran into that somewhere. I'd need to look it up again, though,
Yeah.
so I can find it. But yeah, because I remember reading something that they're looking into maybe doing a Spelljammer for 5e. They're thinking
Well,
about
that
it.
makes sense, especially now that Pazio came out with Starfinder. You
Yeah.
know, trying to keep up with the trends.
And the
Yep.
fact is, we have seen them already bring in 2 of their campaign settings to 5th edition. Granted, like,
Yeah.
I feel like they've given us enough basic information that you could pull something off in Greyhawk, because Greyhawk is sort of the basis, but also in Fallen Empires or Forgotten Realms. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm mixing up too much stuff at one time. Yeah, for Forgotten Realms, just from the back of the book, and though the Forgotten Realms stuff is a lot better because we actually have like the Sword Coast adventures and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the Curse of Strahd, which is like, here's Ravenloft, you know.
Which I run on the side for some of my friends, which is pretty good.
I
Yeah,
ran
we
through
did
it with
Curse
Joe.
of Strahd. It was definitely interesting. Matt took it in some interesting places.
We sort of like, unfortunately, got to the point in time where our group was falling apart, so I summarized the ending a little bit, which was the only thing I feel sad about. You know, is we basically just did a wrap-up session with lot less rolls.
Let me guess. They picked too many dark powers.
That didn't help for one thing, but
Okay, the problem was our group, our cleric committed suicide, pretty much, by embracing Strahd and letting him drink him, because he didn't want to be a cleric anymore.
the player
And our
wanted
paladin-
changes.
Yeah, and our paladin was absent when we went to the temple, so we had no good moral compass to go, hey, guys, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You had a chaotic neutral guy
And,
and
chaotic
a
neutral-
rogue.
yeah. And the
A
rogue
chaotic
was like,
neutral sorcerer and a rogue who were like, sure, we'll grab some of these powers.
Yeah, I actually had to do some interesting things for my game because my group didn't have a cleric or a paladin, so
oh god,
there's basic.
you need at least one of those, unfortunately.
Well, thankfully, the random ally was a priest, and so I just kind of had him level up with the party to kind of
Yes. Oh man. No.
just so they had one around.
It became really weird because they got the Bride of Frankenstein Golem as an ally, but they got Irina killed and decided to take Irina to the person that made the Golem. So I'm like, you know what? He's gonna say, oh, this is a much better thing to make into a Flesh Golem. So then they had Flesh Golem Irina as their ally.
But we did get her brain back.
Yes, then I had them quest for like an artifact so they could like imbue her soul into it, you know?
But it also didn't help. We dicked around with Mordecai too much.
Yeah.
And I was also a wild sorcerer. So at one point I became a floaty blue sheep.
For a brief period of time.
My friends have yet to get to Mordecai, but they do kind of recognize that's like
Oh, we knew he was completely nuts, but we decided to
asked for his help
try
like
to
4
use it.
times.
Yeah.
4 times. They're like, can you help us out? He's like, sure!
yeah.
And I also had a freaking closet. following me around.
Yeah, he ended up getting the master killed, so the Quaz is like, hey, you done that really evilly.
Oh.
I'm gonna follow you around. It was the guy at the temple. The guy at the temple was like trying to commune with one of the dark powers and then ran off, and they're like, he's doing something terrible! Murder him! And he hadn't even done it.
I had to... So, I was way too nice with my players at the dark powers. I'm just like... they still got, like, curses and stuff, but I didn't have them roll for, like, turning evil. At the same time, though, I didn't make it super easy on them, so they wouldn't take a bunch of them, but...
Yeah, I got some dark tendencies that, I, basically wanted pleasure from people all the time, and I wouldn't take no for an answer, as well as my other curse. So, I made a bargain with the priest since he wasn't using the flesh golem.
The other one.
The original flesh golem, that I could have access to it. So
he got his own Frankenstein bride.
Yeah, so not to... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thankfully my party actually did get Irina saved.
Our party killed Irina.
Yes. They literally killed her to keep her from Strahd.
Well, one of my players played Curse of Strahd way back when, so he knew the importance of Irina.
Yeah, the guy that got killed by Strahd had just turned into a werewolf. So, like, I was on Twitter, like, Chris Perkins was like, someone asked that question, he's like, yeah, werewolf can become a vampire, and I'm like, score. So then they...
Gosh.
Werewolf, vampire, cleric.
Now working for Strahd. Former character turned villain. It was wonderful. It was too easy. They set themselves up for their own problems.
Let's just have a physically immune vampire.
Yep.
There's a reason whenever I do werewolves in my game, including in Curse of Strahd, I make them resistant to physical, not immune.
They ended up, because that was going to be the back end of it, that, like, the last two things that were going to happen was resolving him and then defeating Strahd. That was our sort of summary thing. And ended up the team...
And demon battles.
Okay, because the people... No, devils. Because the werewolf guy, in order to rebel against Strahd, made a deal with that one countess that was sort of the devil worshipper, in order to summon a bunch of devils to Bavrovia to take it over. So it was an interesting kind of, like, setup I did there, that they were going to have, like, a three-way battle with the PCs in the middle. The rebellion against Strahd, and they had to choose a side. They chose Strahd.
So my PCs are really weird because they're PCs, but at the same time, they're actually against Strahd. And, you know, they're doing okay. They're not, like...
Well, we were against Strahd. We used the demon. We partnered with him to fight the devils, and then turned against Strahd when he was weakened from the fight.
Which totally he was going to turn against them also, but that's besides the point. I mean, you did sort of piss him off like 17 times in the course of the adventures.
Oh, yes. Immensely.
Yeah.
I taunted him with the Strahd puppet at one point.
Good times. Anyway, we've gone off topic, but that's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that was a really fun off topic, though. Going back to the society scenario, the commencement one, because apparently it's supposed to be replayable is the only thing about it, because it is only something small, or like first and second level, that I guess is supposed to, if you need to introduce new characters to it. Like, I got a set of characters, and maybe we played through it before, but I guess the way it's set up is made to just be an introduction to people into, like, the Starfinder society for, like, new characters. So they might be a little familiar with it because it is replayable, but because they're a new person, it might be a little different. And I really want to check that out at some point in time, because I find that interesting as how they've made it replayable.
Yeah, but I mean, that's great, though, that they have an introductory level like that, because it is a completely kind of new genre in Pathfinder, so it makes sense to be like, hey, here's what this world's about.
Also, I think the systems are slightly different. I haven't had a good chance to look through Starfinder's systems, but there is the Starfinder PSFRD.
Yes, they just kicked that off. But maybe that's a one-shot we can do at some point.
Oh yeah, that's true. That might be
one-shot the commencement.
I actually threw my name into a raffle for a free copy of that. Didn't win.
It's some. I've thrown my name in a few of those free raffle things before. Yeah. So definitely, I do want to I'll have to look through the Pathfinder or the Starfinder SRD definitely here just to get an idea of how it compares. This is very true. I know it's similar, but where the differences are, I'm unsure. So that's definitely a question. But no, that'll be cool to check out some of this stuff too, and definitely have a chance to play through some of them. I've enjoyed Pathfinder. You know, it has definitely its flaws, and a lot of those flaws stem from 3.0. As I was talking about with Joe yesterday, the major flaw that we faced is this is CR battle that's equivalent to our level, but it was 6 spellcasters who all had fireball. 6 fireballs.
5 fireballs hit us because we killed one of the spellcasters.
Oh, before they could fireball?
Yeah.
No, I thought they all
only
fireball.
Okay, then it was 5 of them because 5 fireballs hit us.
Oh, one of them tried to cast something else and failed. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
It still was 9d6 5 times
as we entered the room.
Yeah, that was still 45d6 that we all took. I'm sorry, that's a lot of damage very quickly.
Even at level 13.
Yeah. I fell down. I think I got to kill someone and then I fell down.
Yes, you went to -9, was it?
Yep, -9.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of when my party blew up Esmeralda's wagon.
Wow. Poor Esmeralda.
Yeah, but anyway, what was that? That was so many dice. Nearly killed a player.
There's just that's the thing is I think I had the least bad stuff happen to Esmeralda, but when I'm thinking about it, it's all the other people who have stories, it's everything always bad happens to Esmeralda. She never has a good time.
I think the most evil thing that I did in that game was probably double fireball a group of witches that were in the temple that I didn't know were low level. But I was just like, oh crap, 3 witches, twin fireball, and they just exploded, and one of their hats just slowly fell. They floated down to the ground, nice. And I claimed it as my own. Put it out because it was still small bird.
Yeah, but anyway, when it comes to Pathfinder, though, basically my thing is Pathfinder's great as long as you don't play with a heavy munchkin.
Yes, we learned that the hard way. We had a guy who eventually ran a game, which was even worse, who had way too much time on his job that he could just flip through stuff and come up with horrible combinations of things. He had the idea of Matt, we're talking about Justin.
Oh, Justin.
What was the one
my
that
friend
follower
template stacked and then made a synthesis summoner.
What about?
Ooh, that's not a good one. Synthesis summoners.
What about the one that he could have had infinite amount of followers following his follower, following his follower's follower?
It was he found this weird version of a class that I have yet to find, which is an apprentice mage, where you can have an apprentice even at low levels,
and your apprentice can have an apprentice,
and they have minimum. Yes, you can have them be apprentice mages and have apprentices and continue down the line because there's still a minimum level. So you could have 1 billion followers, and it's
or his undying spellcaster.
The undying spellcaster was at least funny because it specifically made it that his character had a bajillion strength and a bajillion constitution, but crap for charisma, and then had some kind of fast healing ability that when they cast a fast healing spell, they added half their constitution modifier to the healing every round, so he was healing 5 damage a round with fast healing, so he kept fast healing himself. That's all he did. It's tank stuff. It was hilarious, but it was not helpful, not effective. I mean, it's an interesting experiment.
Ridiculous.
It was interesting experiments.
But yes, he was definitely a power gamer or munchkin. And he also decided that when he was running a game that, all the possible, fights have to happen.
Yeah, okay.
Especially when you're sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right back.
And we were never near a town either to buy stuff. So we're ill-equipped and constantly under attack.
Mm.
And then he would use the monsters in like, they have this ability and this ability. They would obviously combine it in this way to make it even worse.
Well, I think he had a couple of interesting attitudes. One, he didn't look at random encounters the way that most people look at random encounters, which is supposed to be optional in a certain way.
If feel your party needs more challenge, you add them in.
Yes. Or they're doing something stupid, you add them in. But he felt like because it was there, it was a necessity to add it into the story. And then, yes, he was like, if it can fly and it doesn't need to get near you and can do stuff at range all the time, why won't it just do that until you're dead?
Yeah.
Rather than dump down with people. I understood his attitude, but I didn't like role-playing with him. That's all I have to say about it.
He was very nonchalant about character death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He had dark...
I have a player that has a mentality. I cast Fly. I Eldritch Blast from super far away.
That's exactly the same mentality that he had, except he had it with everything we fought.
Sit there and go, okay, fine, I'm adding some flying guys to this who chase you down.
I just add longbows.
Longbows also do it, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll also do it. That's the thing is, as long as you have... the DM can counter that. Players, not as well.
Yeah.
As I said, he had the Dark Souls role-playing mentality. That was his entire thing. Which, I mean... if you like that type of style gameplay, more power to you, but wasn't mine, and I'm glad I don't have him as a player / GM anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If someone else is running him, let them deal with that shenanigans.
To be fair, I have a friend who, he's also a munchkin actually as a player, but as a GM, he makes all of his dungeons fortresses.
Oh, I've done that before, but I like having variety in things, that's...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean,
it could... My point is, it's all heavily fortified. Everyone knows all the secret entrances, and it's just, there's traps on everything, and it's just... Yeah.
I've done some stupid stuff when it comes to character design.
Hey, why is this guy in a 5x5 room just standing there? And why doesn't he have a poop bucket or something?
How long has he been here?
I just stand in this 5x5 space my entire life, guarding this random secret door that leads to nowhere. My life is horrible. Please kill me.
Look, I've had some poor game design from late night to game designs, which I'm just putting things together. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense when you're building it, and it's up to you to correct it later on. I think by the time we got to it, unfortunately, in the adventure, I was like, I don't care, whatever. He's still there. No explanation.
I just like standing in a closed room.
Look, man, you have your assignments. I'm supposed to listen for people and pop out. I'm bad at listening for people.
Hey, there's a secret door here. Harry, there's a guy standing behind it.
Damn.
And there's nothing else in this thing, and it's only a 5x5 space, so he can't even sit.
No, he can legally sit down.
Well, he didn't have a chair though, so
he can lay on the floor.
He can't lay. He can sit. He can sit cross-legged.
He can lay and poop in the corner when he needs to.
Not in a 5x5 room. He'd be laying in his own poop.
Okay. Poor gameplay. Poor design play. I will never admit to being
job.
I will never admit to being the best game master, especially years ago. All right.
Campbell.
Yes. There's too many stories.
Sorry.
All right.
Back to Pathfinder.
Why don't we move on now before we digress too much into insanity, even though we've been discussing into insanity, which is fun. Insanity is fun.
Yes.
And that was like a weird echo I got. I swear I got a weird echo of you and Mountain
So
Cameling.
I think we're in Book of Skelos now.
The Book of Skelos. Yes, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Because Conan. So, Morphidius, I'm probably pronouncing their name wrong because they're some kind of weird European company. Morphidius has put out the Conan RPG, which we've talked about on the show in previous episodes. It is literally cool looking one that's it's done by someone who worked on things like D&D and Dark Suns and some other various role-playing games. So I think you can get a little bit of influence of that. It's definitely going to the book material of Conan more than anything, you know, which is cool. I think the last time we talked about it, we talked about while they were talking about Conan being like a thief and a robber, you know, where they have had times where he's tried to steal stuff from people.
Yes.
This time, they're bringing the Book of Skelos, which it's talking about sorcery in Hyborian, if I'm pronouncing the country or landscape correctly. It's being both a player character and a non-player character as a sorcerer in a world where magic items and sorcery aren't maybe the most prolific thing. Like, I'm guessing your characters will probably gain, like, a charm here or two, but it's not going to be like in even 5th edition. As you get much higher in level, you're bound to have, like, 3 or 4 magic items at very least, a player, you know, by the time you're getting, like, 10th level. This one, maybe you get one sort of charm or something over the course of it, and it does introduce a couple of artifacts and other kind of rituals, and various things that you could use. It's kind of cool.
Like Undead Gate. One of the things you can summon is 1 to 4 Juju zombies.
It sounds so silly, but I understand it.
3 to 24 zombies.
Wow.
That's horrifying. Here's 24 zombies.
I'm pretty sure that's for the enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, the archetypes they have are alchemist, charlatan, sage, sorcerer, and witch doctor. Ooh.
I told the witch doctor I was in love with you.
Indeed. I mean, like, it's some of them sound a little, I wouldn't say cliche, but like used. Like sorcerer, you know, we hear of sorcerers, alchemists. A sage seems interesting as the like a archetype. Rather than then like usually it's sort of more of a background, but like the witch doctor and charlatan seem neat because witch doctor I guess is more like, you know, got the feeling of Pathfinder witch a little bit, but maybe a little more tribal, which is kind of cool. And I'm not sure how charlatan and sorcery goes, so I guess that's more like stage magician with actual magic.
Ooh.
I'm only guessing on that one because of, like, it being a charlatan, you know?
Yes.
That's just one that we don't have as much information on. So, I mean, I like this book just because, I mean, from what I've seen of the Conan RPG, it seems kind of interesting. It's a much more brutal fantasy, I would say. That's a good way of describing it. Brutal fantasy than your, like, Dungeons and Dragons. That's very definitely. And this one, adding in that level of magic that really wasn't there until now, definitely kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like. Okay, go ahead.
I do like. Oh, sorry. I was going to say like the it is interesting the magic in like a low magic setting.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, in settings where magic is just not as prevalent, like. I guess another one would be comparing it to Dark Sun. Because isn't, like, most sorcery, like, inherently evil or considered evil for one of those reasons? Like, that's why I guess there's psionics in Dark Sun. If I can remember correctly, it's been a while since I've played Dark Sun. But that's why it's sort of like, when I said it was, like, the guy worked on it, I'm like, it has some similar feeling to it. setting's very different, but I mean there's some like similarities between a Dark Sun and the Conan then with this, definitely.
Yes.
I think it's definitely one of those books I would say if you're doing the Conan system I would check out. You know, adding magic into the world, I feel like it's a good thing because if you always see like in a lot of traditional Conan things, he does fight against other warriors, but there always seems to be some kind of dark wizard somewhere or something. And even if you're not using it for player characters, it'll help you with your villains, definitely. I mean, Joe and his undead gate.
Yeah, but now you're gonna have that player who always wants to play the mage who is not gonna do that in the PC.
Yeah, that's true. He's always gonna be want to be the sorcerer in it, and that's why I'm also interested how they do their sorcery system too, because there are so many different types of systems. Mm-hmm. Will it be more traditional D&D, or will it be more like Earth Dawn, where you have skills and stuff? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you know like what kind of system it is? Like, is it a D100?
God. I knew at one point in time when we talked about it's a 2D20 system.
2D20. That's interesting.
Yes. I've heard of 2D20s, but I've never played in one to know exactly how they work. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
I believe you rolled 2D20. That's just an educated guess.
That is good education there. I mean, I think you've guessed correctly here, my good friend. I am assuming that seems correct.
Sweet.
It does have the Robert E. Howard official license, the guy who made Conan. I don't know how that, that's important or not, but...
Well, it's not copyright infringement, at least.
Oh.
I'm a little bit curious. In terms of, like, what you like to play or run, on, like, where would you put yourself in the scale of high to low, like, high magic, like, where it's, like, magic is everywhere, to, like, low magic or, like, no magic at all?
For me, personally, since I tend to run a lot of games more than play in them, if I'm on a player, I'm pretty adaptable. I've played magic users, I've played non-magic users. I've had characters, both camps that I enjoy. For running it, I probably traditionally kind of go in the standard middle for what Dungeons & Dragons as a base / like Pathfinder is. I'm usually fine with whatever the system sort of pertains to it most. Altering that, I've done games in both of those that I've run them too. I don't mind. I guess it really comes up with the idea I come up with. When I come up with a really cool idea and it's like, oh, this would be really magical. Oh, this would not have a lot of magic in it, and then I work off of that. I'm very flexible at that end, I guess, personally.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way, but ironically enough, I like magic users a lot, but the game that I wrote that I have to get back to at some point has absolutely no magic in it. It's set in the 1930s, 40s, mob rules kind of time. The most close to magic kind of thing is there's a race of aliens, but that's just high technology that they have.
Vampires. You have vampires. They're supernatural.
Oh yeah, well there's vampires. Well, okay, there's supernatural vampires, but they don't. But as far as actual magic,
no,
that doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's replaced by technology.
I usually like to shoot for a little bit on the higher magic side, but I also like it to be... a little bit on the higher magic side. Normally, I tend to... Well, let me put it this way. I basically only like 2 months ago made my first character that had no spells.
Ooh.
I tend to like crossing rogues and spellcasters a lot.
Yeah, I actually did a multi-class rogue fighter because they needed another front line, and so I'm just like, I made a swashbuckling rogue fighter.
Look,
cool.
As much as I can say a lot about it, I really have to say my two favorite characters, only one of which I actually get to play right now, is my Hobgoblin Archer in Pathfinder, because archery is really fun in Pathfinder.
And can be ridiculous.
And I would love to get back to playing it, but my rogue pirate character, that one game that we probably will never play again.
The pirate game, yeah.
The pirate game we were in, that, the chances of us getting back to it are slim to goddamn none, but hey.
Because most of the people we can't even get anymore.
Oh, that's life. That's life for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I
it's
still
been on
want
permanent hiatus for like a year almost.
Yeah. I still want to experiment with doing both a mixture of live action and computer people, because we do it with some of our friends, but I would like to try to see if you can mesh it more. Like have a couple of people maybe actually on like Roll20 or something, and then a couple of people, like if you have them live, you have them live, because I know at least a few of the people we know don't have like webcams and stuff. And I'm not talking about like streaming, I'm just like trying to test it out. That'd be kind of neat. I mean, it would be interesting to experiment with that in streaming too, but I feel like you need multiple cameras.
Well, Saturday game might turn into that.
Saturday game might be turned into like one or two people live and all the rest online. Yeah, definitely. I'll be right back. Why don't you talk a little bit more about Conan for a second, and then we'll talk about Space 1889, because it sounds like something's going on in the other room.
Okay. I don't have much more on Conan. Do you have anything else?
I don't either. 'Cause I just don't know about enough about it.
Yeah.
So.
Why don't we go into Space 1889 and back and catch up?
Okay.
That sounds more interesting. So, Matt and I had talked about this before. It's a Victorian steampunk Jules Verne kind of universe where space travel is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mars, Venus, and there's another planet that actually have creatures on it, and we can travel to those planets. The one that Matt wants to talk about this week is the Venus adventure, which is the jungles of Venus, which still have dinosaurs and lizard men, which I still make the comment of I thought women were from Venus. Not...
When the professionals reduced to looking after a 4-year-old.
Yes. We just moved on to Space 1889 because we did that for Conan.
That's fine. I love Space 1899. It's such a weird setting. I'm sorry.
It's Jules Verne.
it's Jules Verne. It's Jules Verne, and it's who was it that created it? It was Thomas Edison found space travel or something. It was like really weird.
It was
like
Thomas Edison who found space travel.
Yes. So
he probably didn't find it. He probably stole it from Nikola Tesla.
Oh, that's true. That's also true. But wow. So it's all about, plunging into the green hell of the morning star. That's a great way of saying it. Scientists, explorers, So it's definitely a very different setting than like when we were talking about where they had all the Martian stuff. That now you have like alien lizard men and dinosaurs.
So what, the canals on Mars was the other one?
Something like that, yeah. Where there's like settlements of Britain, Germany, Italy, and Russia. So far. There's just something about this that stands out to me as so interesting, but also
America
so
didn't
weird.
make it to Venus?
Look, America's only it's the 1889. America's just post-Civil War.
Edison was the one who found it.
Well, look, maybe Thomas Edison stole it to the base. I don't know why. I would have to look up the base information.
The Russians. Damn you, Thomas Edison.
Sold it to the Russians.
I think we need to have an adventure in this game and flesh out that Thomas Edison didn't do it and Nikola Tesla did.
Oh my God, that'd be terrible, but also wonderful. Okay, Japan, United States is out in space.
Yes. But they're not on Venus.
Yes. Mars has only been on Belgium, while Italy has only been on Venus, and Japan and the United States have economic and scientific enclaves on Mars. So Japan's out there too.
And Samurai on Mars.
Yeah, and
it's a little bit early for Japan to be.
Well, it's actually right in the time period where they were getting all their European stuff. because after they
Oh,
broke
okay,
open.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep, that's where they were. That was the time period of imitating Europe and basically learning everything that they could from them.
Like I said, samurai on Mars.
Yep, and Mercury apparently has the United Kingdom on it for science.
Sure, they can roast on Mercury. Go ahead.
It probably doesn't roast. I mean, there's freaking like prehistoric jungles on
I
Venus.
know.
The setting is very Jules Verne.
Yes.
It's a little bit of steampunk and a lot of Jules Verne.
Verm?
Verne. Quiet you.
Can we get shot up to the moon in a giant bullet?
Yes.
Sweet. Well, that's how they did it. With a trip to the moon, they got shot out of a giant cannon and a giant bullet.
Wow. God, Thomas Edison exploring space. It's so weird, but it's so wonderful, too.
At least he can make a phone call.
Oh, my God, that was a bad one. But yeah, so I guess the book will help you on like the plants and lizard men and dinosaurs that live on Venus if you want to explore them and other creatures.
What about the lizard women?
I don't know. It's sort of like in AD&D and D&D, they were called lizard men when there was both male and female versions of them, but they were all
That's
lizard
very
men.
sexist.
It was incredibly sexist, and that's why they became lizard folk in 3.0.
Yes.
Well, you also have human.
Yes, that's true. So, I mean, it's not... I think they're trying to say, like, man in the not masculine
Like
version.
mankind.
Yeah, like
Yes.
mankind.
I know. I'm picking.
I know, but I think
But
that's
it is
actually-
also the 1880s, so
Yeah.
sexism.
Do the lizard men have space travel?
Probably not, but we could probably give it to them because
And
we're
the
greater
lizard
than them.
men have-
That would be a fun campaign to center around.
trying to get the lizard men into like it's like proper Victorian fashion. It's like hitting
Yeah.
things with sticks. I'm like, no, hold the pinky out.
Here, put this monocle on your eye. You'll look smart. Wear this bow tie.
Oh god, lizard man in a blow tie. Oh my god, that'd be so ridiculous. I like it. I like it a lot.
He turns his stick into a cane.
And apparently there's an actual like focus on chemistry for this one because you can explore Venus for new drugs, chemicals, and bizarre and wondrous substances.
Wait, I have to add one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
It brings a new meaning to a coat with tails.
God.
I'm sorry, I had to go there. So, cocaine on Venus?
Yeah.
Oh god, cocaine-fueled lizard men. That sounds... And dinosaurs. I was...
Ratchet. We don't teach lizard men how to travel in space. We teach the dinosaurs.
Well, how about just like a gentleman Brit just like riding like a stegosaurus? Pip pip, cheerio. How are you doing today?
Instead of those like giant bicycles, you get just a
Stegosaurus.
yeah.
Or a T-Rex.
Eat it.
The
Yep.
view's marvelous up here.
And then press play on Shimmer and Shout, okay? You do know how to press play.
That sounds like an interesting system to run at some point.
Oh my god, I do.
About normal men riding dinosaurs instead of giant bicycles.
See, like, the thing is, there's some systems that we've talked about that I'm like, this would be cool to run, and this is like one of like, I really kind of just want to try it out because it's so
Bizarre.
different. Yeah. It's like one of those settings that like stands out. Like, Conan looks cool, but it's the same kind of, it's like a fantasy we've done. A lot of the other ones are like, they look cool, but they have things connecting to stuff we've done. This one is sort of like, wow. It's
I
just,
personally love steampunk, and Jules Verne is awesome.
so
So this would be cool.
yeah, Space 1889 is definitely one of the ones like high on my list of trying to try out one of times. Especially because I do want to eventually start the series where we do like multiple shots testing out role-playing game systems. I would love to do that on the channel at some point in time when I get a chance to, and this is definitely high on the list of those.
Hey, and this would prove all those conspiracy theorists about lizard people who coming to Earth.
Except the conspiracy theorists think the lizard men are from Mars. So.
Yeah. Oh, darn Martian lizard people.
Apparently, they have already had the Mercury book out, though. So if you wanted to go visit... Oh, God. I have to look what Mercury's like.
I think we did vaguely discuss
No, we talked about Mars.
No, I think I mentioned Mercury and Venus. There were little snippets on them, but I don't think we went deep into it.
So... It's the juxtaposition, because it's like one side always faces the sun, the other doesn't. So one's a vast desert filled with molten metal lakes, and the other is a lifeless waste of giant glaciers and ammonia.
So they must live on like the little strip of land that's in between those two areas that gets not too much sun and not too much light, or not too much dark, because otherwise you couldn't live in a land with molten lakes.
Yeah. Along the World River. Yeah, that's what it is. The area in between. The true riches of it.
Because we've discovered exoplanets that were like, well, it is tidal locked, but if you lived on this line on the edge of the planet, you would be able to probably survive there.
Oh my god. I mean, that's the thing about it, is it's like, not only is it like the sensibilities of Jules Verne and stuff, they're taking like those ridiculous ideas of like Jules Verne and stuff about the other planets in our system and just doing them
running with it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so interesting.
Yeah.
But then also, if you were living on on Mercury, you'd also be then living in perpetual twilight.
Ooh.
It would never get dark. It would never get light. It'd always be like, hey, it's.
That'd actually be kind of cool.
Actually, yeah, because the like interesting aspects are basically what separates it from just being like steampunk Star Trek.
Yes, that is exactly it. I definitely probably have to get these quick start rules downloaded sometime, since they're totally free, and check them out.
Hey, Voyager did have the episode with the dinosaurs that evolved into people-ish people.
That's true. Voyager did a lot of interesting things, though. This is accurate.
I need to finish watching through all the Star Trek.
I'm a big.
I've seen Next Generation. I've seen a lot of Deep Space Nine, and I've seen all of
original
Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh, I feel
Enterprise is a mixed bag for me, because some of it.
I like Enterprise because it was my introduction to Star Trek.
For me, who's seen a lot of it, there were some very good episodes. There were some really terrible episodes, and I felt like their ongoing plots were just bad, though.
I saw the first season and was like, "This is the death of Star Trek."
Yeah. It's funny, because if it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't be into Star Trek.
Of course, I think there's a new Death of Star Trek coming this month that is going to last 15 episodes and fail.
Oh, Discovery?
Yeah. They're already working with another person on another Star Trek series. The theory is that this is going to fail horribly. They know it. And that they're going to just say after the end of the season that, we planned this all along as an anthology, that it's going to be several different series in a row, and we're only going to do one season of each to kind of make up for their...
Well, on an incredibly tangent here, they're putting it up on their streaming service mainly, which is a terrible idea to get popular, so, their personal streaming service.
The other thing is they're completely lying about it with... I just have to enter this in, and I'll stop on Star Trek. That they're saying it's supposed to follow the original timeline, but they don't have the rights for the original timeline. They're running off the rights for that J.J. Abrams has, so it's actually a reboot, not part of the original canon.
Ooh.
And they won't admit it.
That's weird. Well,
and they're bringing in a adopted sister for Spock.
Well, anyway, different thing entirely. I was gonna
Sorry.
mention that I really enjoyed Voyager because I just watched through it the entire thing recently. Because BBC America was showing it, and I had an excuse to use the DVR to record all of it.
I've seen all of them several times through. Next Gen is my favorite, and I'd have to say original and DS9 are tied for second. DS9 just for the fact it was the first Star Trek that had a continuous storyline throughout the whole series. Because before it was like, oh, there's a couple episodes that tie together, but there was no overarching plot. And with DS9, there's an overarching plot, and I'm still pissed that they never made a movie because they left it totally open for one.
On another note that's both equivalent and tangential, I would love to try the new Star Trek RPG system.
Yes, I've seen a little bit of that. It looks interesting.
Yeah, that does look interesting. I would love to delve into that world because I am a big Star Trek nerd.
I think it's because if you play it right, it's a different sensibility than a lot of adventures, and I think that's why it's another one that interests me a lot, you know? Unfortunately, it's because I guess we've been hit with so much of, like, the standard sci-fi and fantasy. We need a little something different in our RPGs almost sometimes.
Well,
to be like,
right. Well, also with Star Trek RPG, you are part of, as much as it's a militaristic thing that has certain orders and rules and everything else. You don't get that in a lot of RPGs.
Yeah, and you're on a cooperative crew, too, so...
Right.
Yeah. So... But no, but going back to it, because, hey, you know, we've just went back into space, you know, so Space 1889, the Venus supplement is out now. We like Space 1889 as an idea, and I'll probably be looking over the quick start rules, and I don't know if I can throw together an adventure off the quick start rules, but if I can, I totally will sometime soon, and maybe I'll stream it as a one-shot.
That'll be fun. I will join definitely for that.
Yes, we'll have to figure that out.
Invite me, please.
I will when I can, if I can use off the quick start rules. If not, I'll have to see if I can have the money for the core book at least. You know, that's the big thing is money for a bunch of core books. Otherwise,
that's always hard.
Well, some stuff I might be able to help with. So
yes.
Now that I'm in a better financial place.
Yes. If people out side tangent pimping myself just for a second. If people want to support me, that's one of the first goals on my Patreon is getting RPG books for one-shots and stuff for trying a bunch of these out and having you guys maybe participate in them too. Ooh, ooh. Okay, I've done pimping myself.
But I will say, Wyrm, you're definitely... I would love to role play with you again. Last week's one-shot was fun.
Actually...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are you gonna...
I was going to say, you had invited me to a one-shot, and he knows about it because he's a player on my normal Saturday game, so...
Yeah, I hope, like, I hope I didn't,
Oh, no, the worst part was I mistook it for a second and thought it was this Saturday until, like, last time you said it, and I read the first message, I was like, I'm dumb!
He's like, this Saturday we need to change things up. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, a week from Saturday.
Oh God, it's like I missed that. And I'm like, oh,
how dare you steal our GM?
But no, I was gonna say on a different tangent, which we'll talk about maybe after the show. That I might do another one shot this Sunday because Rachel's back, but it's gonna be like jet lagged to all hell. So I don't know if I'll do another one shot or not this weekend. I'll see it.
Well, like I also said, if we can't do it Sunday, if people are available Monday,
I'll ask the two of them about Monday from the normal game. Well. But we'll find out. We'll talk about that post-show. But anyway, why don't we move on to stories from the table? Hey, guess what? We've gotten through our main topics. So, as always, when we have a new guest, I especially like to focus on them for our stories from the table. So, Wyrm, go ahead, share with us an interesting story from your gaming table.
So, this is actually a fun one. This story comes from my very first, the very first game I ever ran, which was also the third RPG game I ever played.
Okay.
So I was GMing pretty fresh off the table.
Yeah.
But it was kind of I did like a one-shot, basically. I planned a one-shot just because I didn't want to, like, invest too much into my first game. And it was interesting. So I had it start with them, like, traveling somewhere on, like, a cart and a horse. And basically the adventure started when the driver gets hit by an arrow and slumps over. and the horse gets spooked and starts darting forward, and they notice the bridge is out over a river. And so I'm like, what do you guys do? It's like, okay, well, it's like, well, I think I'll jump off. But then the wizard, the wizard was like, guys, I don't have athletics. I can't jump off the cart. I'm just like, what? Like, I had it so if they failed the check, they'd just fall prone. It wasn't like a big deal. And he's like, well, I mean, you can just jump. He's like, no, guys, I don't have an athletics score. I can't jump off the horse. And it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? He's all like, I shoot magic missile at the horse.
Oh, God.
And they all just like, we all attacked the horse, and like, and basically they took 2 turns, and basically they killed the horse, and it like I had it was they were gonna run off the bridge in 2 turns, and they literally hit the perfect hit points to get it to die right before it went off the edge. So I had it like the cart go sliding to a halt, and so it's just kind of like there's kind of this running joke in my group of friends now, just kill the horse.
Wow.
So it's pretty great. I actually love that because it's just like...
No.
That's right up there with jump on the effing rhino.
Yes. No, because we do have a book of quotes, which is always an important thing. One of the quotes was a story of, we had a cleric in plate mail, and they had killed this massive zombie rhino. It had sort of fallen into this set of stairs, which technically had a secret set of stairs going down below it. But they damaged the mechanism, but they could see a little hole in. They're like, oh, it looks like it's trying to fall in. If we put more weight on it, maybe it'll crash through. So they're all jumping on it, like from up to like second floor, jumping down onto it, kind of thing, because they're in like a big open mansion hall. And they're like, look, you're in plate mail. You can help us out. Jump on it. I'm like, look, I can't help you out. And I'm like, okay, come on. You should be able to do it. You can make the check. Person rolls. They get a -4 because with their plate mail, they have a -6 to their ability to balance on the rhino. Lands on it, slides off, thumps down on their face. It's just like, wow. It was wonderful.
You look heavy. Jump on the right.
I think you got a slap in the face for that one, too.
Yes, because it was a female in plate mail, and I said, you're the heaviest of all of us. I'm like, she slaps me. It's like, because you're in plate mail.
No, I think like a good story is always wonderful for an RPG system, especially when things like this happen. Like we can break into these ridiculous tangents about like, oh, this ridiculous thing happened. Isn't this wonderful? Because they really are. But all right,
yeah, that's like one of my favorite things that ever happened. It's just like, guys, kill the horse.
Yeah, horse-related death and horse-related incidents are one of my favorite things that have occurred in games. Mm-hmm. Joe and his horse that got killed. I think there was another game where we had someone that had to beat up a unicorn for the greater good.
And then we also had a character who was a unicorn trying to do a bank job.
That was a good one.
Trying to sneak around with guards in the area and decides, oh, I'm in this room with this coffin. I want to see what's in this coffin. I'm going to use my teeth somehow to open it. And drops the lid. The stone lid.
Unicorn in the bank was the greatest thing ever. The series of dumb ideas that people sometimes have. Yeah, that's right. It was Unicorn Monk. But it's the when people have dumb ideas, they have really dumb ideas in role-playing games. I don't know how it happens, but we always somehow like come up with the stupidest of plans that just get executed, and it's like, well, that happened.
Oh, also, what makes it better? It was a bag for kobolds.
That's right.
So it was a bag designed for small creatures.
Uncle Matt,
Aurora.
is that the last of my food?
That's
At least I was a leprechaun. I fit very well. That's also the excuse of why the unicorn came with us, because it was like, I guess I'll say he's my magical friend.
Help me rob this bank.
He came with the leprechaun.
I am the good.
Okay, why don't you go sit down and I'll get you something in a little bit, okay? Go watch some more Shimmer and Shine.
I didn't know.
No, I'll get you a little bit. Okay, Joe, do you have a stories from the, or no, Gaming Stage Advice? Gaming Stage Advice.
Right? Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'm gonna give you my first story from the table. The
Um,
first game I was ever in.
why don't you just share a story? I don't know if you talked about it while I go help her
Yeah,
get
we
like a
have.
snack or something.
So, the first role-playing game I ever did was Cyberpunk. You know Cyberpunk at all?
Yeah.
Just as a general thing for the audience, just in case, Cyberpunk's futuristic, post kind of apocalyptic almost, sci-fi. So, I was in a group. Also, one of the normal group apparently couldn't join, and we allowed one of our friends to come in and play that guy's character. So for some reason, we were doing research in about this case that we were on in a hotel, and everything's going fine. We're talking to the hotel about what we're trying to get information from, and for some reason, the guy who's playing someone else's character, there's a guy who falls down and starts having a seizure in the middle of the hotel, and he bends down over this guy.
Yes, you're welcome.
Pretends to warm his hands over his butt while yelling, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" coming out of his ass. And we all just looked at him. And the GM just goes, "Lose 5 permanent intelligence." Mind you, this isn't even the guy's character. It's like, oh. He did retcon it eventually for the other characters, so he didn't have to do that.
But it's still like it's like
the rest of that game that he was
What?
playing the character, just like, yeah, you're dumber just because you did that for no reason. And the best part was the guy who did it never would admit to the story that it happened. He's like, I never did that. It's like, yes, you did. I don't know why you did, but you did. The guy. We found out that the guy on the floor was actually having a diabetic seizure.
oh god. What makes it worse? It's like, oh, he's having a seizure. Gas fire.
Yeah. So there's an interesting. That was my first session of my first role-playing game, and that happened.
That's a thing that occurred. Yeah. That's
And
a
that
good way of
wasn't
describing
me.
it.
It wasn't me as the noob doing it. It was someone who had played role-playing games before doing it.
Oh. Wow. That's... Yep. Wow. All right, why don't we move on to our final segment for the day, Gaming Sage Advice. Now, I usually like to... Either I have someone in the audience, if they've got a question for us that we can discuss, if one of my guests has it, or usually I throw together something from what we've been talking about for the day that will give people advice about, well, their gaming world, whether role-playing games, collectible card games, or board games, just something that'll help you get a little bit of advice about your situation. It's basically the question and answer phase that I have. I don't know if you'd have one, Wyrm. I kind of have an idea of one. But I'll digress to people first before I throw one together myself. Or chat, if chat has one. Chat,
How
can you
many
get
lizard people does it take to get to the center of Venus? The world will never know.
You ask Mr. Owl. And Mr. Owl is technically a primordial dinosaur owl monster that will probably tear you limb from limb. But if you can manage to convince it to give you the correct answer, well, then you know, if not, you'll be devoured and put into some kind of, like, massive owl pellet in its lair deep within the jungles of Venus.
Yeah.
Why does this actually sound like a story, like a plot line that could exist in this game now? Like, this primordial owl sage monster or something you can ask advice from?
The answer is 1, 2, chomp.
Yes. All right.
I actually know someone who in high school, like, they had to do like a statistics experiment or something like that. Or something, I don't remember what they did, but it was like for some class they had to do something, and they actually did that. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
I know it's
They
like
actually sat there and counted the
oh
legs.
my god, I know I know if people have talked about it, it's like a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually did have a gaming stage advice question that was influenced by what we talked about today, and what is it that you do for a game as someone that would run it, or could do as for a game that would make it more unique? And what I mean by that is, like, when we were looking at things like Space 1889, Star Trek, they have something more unique to them on their own. What would you take and make unique in your basic settings that, like, you have a Dungeons & Dragons or something? How do you think you can make it that it stands out above the rest when you're building your setting? Just to make it be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Joe, do you have... What do you do to make yours...
I have the one that I been working on for D&D. Or no, Pathfinder.
Yep.
That I wanted to start in a game that it was, you know, your base, you know, Pathfinder world, base technology and everything. And through a series of events, you get whisked into this futuristic tech world. And how characters would react to, and name, because I think that'd be fun too, you know, running into these high-tech devices with only knowing, you know, base tech and magic. It's like, what does a barbarian call a laser?
Yeah. No, I think that's...
And how do you react to it?
That's definitely an interesting look at things that you're like doing. And basically that's, I would say, is like turning things on their head, you know.
Yeah. It's a time shift.
Yeah, well, even without the time shift, it's making a fantasy a sci-fi is basically what you're doing, and that's an interesting way of doing things. Wyrm, how would you maybe go about doing this?
Okay, so I actually find it interesting to focus on the metaphysics of the world. So, for example, I'm building a world. I'll be working on that later today on stream. You know, I've kind of focused on, like, okay, well, how does the, how do the gods work? How does that, you know, all that stuff happen, you know? And, you know, I ended up with a kind of interesting and unique system, which kind of almost builds the world itself. Because, like, in this world that I created, basically, you can become a god by just being worshipped. So if you get enough people to follow you, you could become a god. And, like, how does that kind of play out? Is like an interesting thing to play with.
That's definitely a very cool way of doing it. Like, I think for me personally, I usually like to, when I'm writing something, choose one unique aspect of my story to focus on, where I feel like I can digress from the normal way of doing things. Like, for example, the last adventure, that one shot I ran, I actually started on the idea of, I want a cult sacrificing orphans to make zombie children, because zombie children is weird. That was my idea. I'm like, no one does zombie children.
Children?
No. It's like, no. and I did it, I wanted to do it like an innocuous way, you know, it's sort of like those, like, oh, this is very dark, but we're not showing anything kind of thing. So it's like, oh no, you found the horrible place where they're sacrificing them, you don't really see anything, you know. It's like, oh no, there's all the zombies that have already been created, you know. It's still terrible, but without that, you know.
Alfred Hitchcock kind of tense kind of thing. You know what's going on, but you don't have to directly see it to get it.
Yes. I went horror, but I used that to create this, like, story off of that. And so I think that's my focus normally for this, is try to come up with some kind of interesting and different aspect of the world and make it a little different then. I usually don't go for the big changes when it comes to things like Dungeons & Dragons and stuff. Sometimes I do, but again, it depends on what I feel like I'm building at that point in time. I still like a little different just to give flavor, you know, because interest, it makes it different from someone else's basically version of it, and that's kind of what I always try to aim to do, is just make it a little bit of my own. But so I think that's a technique you can use. So you can see that there's levels of when you're customizing things and when you're aiming for when it comes to tone and genres, that you can really do whatever you want, and there are different extremes is what you feel like is necessary for the adventure you're running. It's basically figure out what you want to do and work on it. All right, cool. Great show for today. That was a cool discussion. We had some great stuff. So we will be back next week. I have a couple of folks lined up. One of them I have to make sure he's still lined up because he was saying next week is the day. So I'll have to kind of poke him a little bit. Other than that, I guess why don't we go around the sort of table and interesting. So I guess Wyrm, why don't you kind of pimp yourself out.
Yeah, so I stream usually Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays. There's a game every other Saturday, and I do world building on the other Saturdays. And then a lot of the other streams are just video game streams. I'm looking into eventually getting another RPG stream going, but I just need to finish some world building stuff before that happens.
Yeah.
And that is at twitch.tv/diamondworm. Also, I'm on Twitter / at diamondworm. I basically do announcements and stuff on Twitter.
Cool. And Joe, I guess you're going to be the normal sort of pimping of me.
Pimpin' Matt!
Yeah, I mean, it really is what you do.
Yeah. So, again, next week, you'll see everyone here again for more Discussing Tabletop. And keep an eye on Matt's Twitter to see if we do something RPG tomorrow or Monday. Probably a one-shot of some sort.
Yes, more than likely, we're either going to do one shot tomorrow, or I'll see what the normal folks for our Treasure Lost Legion are doing on Monday also. So I'll figure out which one of those would be most appropriate for us, and I will announce it on Twitter. I might try to announce that today. Other things for me, if people have noticed, I have had a mixed bag of content. Guess what? I have made an executive decision because I officially, with what happened the past couple of weeks, I'm like a week behind, so fuck it, I'm a week behind. I'm going to skip out on stuff and just start from now, and I'm actually ahead of schedule then instead. So, you know what? I was sort of like half a week behind, but it was like a lot of editing I would be doing today to catch up to that half a week. So I'm like, if I just last night did videos that I would normally put on my schedule today, fuck it, I'll just do them today. You know, screw it. I'll be ahead of schedule. The problems that I had since PAX South, which I should have actually just skipped a week of content, gone. That's it, kids. When you do scripted content, don't try to fill it up during a vacation. It's a bad idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow or Monday role-playing stream, I will be doing normal video game streams, probably Sunday, Monday nights, and then Wednesday, Fallout Wednesdays, New Vegas, Thursday, something else. We'll figure it out. New role-playing stuff in the works still for myself, too. And I've been considering doing some world building of my own at some point in time, but that also goes along with my magic deck building that I want to do on stream here sometime, too. So I'll figure them out. When things start new, I'll announce them. Other than that, you can always show support. Follow here, follow or subscribe on YouTube. If you really want support, there's the Patreon, which I mentioned. Up to you what you want to do to show support and love here. But we'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have Wyrm joining us another time in the future, because it was great having him on. And we will all see you in the future. So bye-bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.